Hello, welcome to Live Vedanta, a podcast about simple living and high thinking from Chinmaya Mission, Niagara. We're exploring courageous caregiving through the lens of Vibhishana Gita. Caring and caregiving feels so important, particularly in the current moment we're in. In this episode, we're exploring 5 practices that can help us create a balanced mind that is unshaken by external forces. For us and for the children in our lives, focusing on integration instead of the results can help us practice resilience against any distraction we face. Let's tune in.
Hari Om, and greetings from London. When one thinks of being a parent, there's 2 skills to think about being a parent. One of the skills is being a parent in relation to a child. When we think of being a parent at this scale, then that is conditional. It's about the space, time, matter that's revolving around that child. But when one thinks of parenting and the scale is not the child, but rather the scale is parenting, and that means expansion, that means succession, and so much more. This is not conditional, but it is comprehensive. One continues to live based on this thinking with or without that child. So naturally, we are challenging ourselves to think about parenting from the scale of comprehension and not conditional. And if you feel that this is your opportunity, the best in you will come out. If you don't feel that this is an opportunity for evolution, then whatever comes out of you will be conditional. Some days you'll be patient and some days you'll be impatient. But if you feel this is your opportunity, this ownership will bring the best out of you. And this is what we're trying to grow into as we begin our, we'll call it a descent based on this semester. We have less than 10 weeks to go in this semester, in this flow of parenting culture. In these final 10 weeks, I'm encouraging everyone to try to internalize, personalize, realize more. While in London, I've been sharing how to evolve from karma yoga to bhakti yoga. In English, I've been describing this as how to evolve from loving what you do to loving who you are. Loving what you do, the reference is the child. Loving who you are, the reference is the opportunity. And I'd shared with all of the seekers who had gathered, I'd asked them all, how many of you own a slow cooker? And so many had their hands up, especially with Instapots, right? So accessible. And then I had shared, what is the Sanskrit word for this body? Deha. What is the root of the word deha? Dahya, which means to burn. And I had shared that we are a slow cooker. Our homeostasis is cooking us. Some people will be cooked in 60 years, some people will be cooked in 80 years. We don't know when we'll be finally cooked. And so that's more impetus for us to internalize, personalize, realize. In our last class, we flowed through a review. We keep reviewing in parenting culture and really all of our spaces and courses because through a review, we come to understand and appreciate that what we are learning is simple. If it's simple, it's rememberable. And if it's rememberable, it's practicable. If it's not simple, you won't remember it. And if you don't remember it, you won't practice it. In our review, we specifically focused on Sri Rama's weapons. Each of these weapons is a value to be converted into a virtue. The symbolism of these weapons have been the shield, the sword, the axe, the spear, and the bow. This is the last value, the last symbol, the bow, which is vijnana, or conviction. Maybe another word for conviction is purpose. Purpose pulls performance in the same way that conviction pulls confidence. And I asked all of you to think about, what do you have conviction in? What circumstance, what article, what being? It is a loaded word, conviction. We throw it around a lot, but it is quite a demanding word. We continue into the 18th facet of Sri Rama's chariot, this chariot of courage. If there's a bow, then there has to be a quiver. Quiver. Is there anyone here who doesn't know what a quiver is? Okay. A quiver. This quiver is made up of two values. The one we are exploring today is Amala. Amala, in English, integration. Integration. I can't help but give you a movie example. Today I was speaking at Western University and I was going into a rant about The Matrix. And I loved what I was ranting about, but I was sad that only a few people had seen the movie. What's wrong with kids these days? So, the rant I'm going to go into now is Inception. In the movie Inception, the main character, his name is Cobb, I think. And he goes into different states. The dream state, the dream sleep state. He goes into his own state, another person's state. Now, for all of you who have seen this movie, please share with me in the chat. Who's always following him around in these different states? Who ends up being there? If you don't get this right, then I'm going to say, what's wrong with kids these days? It is Mal. The wife, the girl. Pay attention. Her name is Mal. You're also insensitive. Her name is Mal. And she, for those who use more casual Hindi, is Mala. Mala means impurity or dirt, but in the case of the movie, it is Vasana. The original Mala, or impurity or dirt, is Vasana. It is only when he lets her go that he's able to start to feel natural. As long as she's there, he's always anxious, looking for her, being distracted by her. But as soon as he's able to let her go, he's able to feel natural. Do you understand Amala a little bit more now? As long as there's Mala, no freedom. When there's Amala, there is freedom. Now, zooming into this in a more practical way. The second facet of this quiver, I'm just introducing this, but I will elaborate on this next week, is achala. Show me chala. Chala means moving, and achala means unmoving. For those who have a traditional bent, if you go to a mandir, for those who have come to Chinmaya Dhara, we have a achala murti. That is the big one, the heavy one that doesn't move. And what's in front of it? The chala murti or utsava murti, that is light, that goes to different people's homes. So this quiver is made up of amala and achala. Amala means integration. This is in reference to the mind, or you can expand this into the entire inner world. But for the sake of simplicity, we'll say the mind. A mind that is integrated is balanced. A mind that is achala is focused. That's why I keep bringing these two together. Balanced and focused. Now, if you think about balanced, when, for those who are changing their tires from winter tires to all seasons, if you don't go for an alignment, those tires are not integrated, correct? And so there's less balance in that car. But if you align your tires, there's more balance. And then again, achala, this is about focus. Now I'm trying to make this more practical. A balanced mind, which naturally is the expression of integration, it is when an outside force tries to shake you, but you're not shaken. How do you know that you have a achala mana, or a balanced mind? An outside force tries to shake you, but you're not shaken. An outside force like quick changing weather. An outside force like some harsh words that your child shares towards you. An outside force like someone who's supposed to do some work at home, but they don't do that. But that doesn't cause you to become imbalanced. Okay? I keep having to bring in the next value too. So now achala, which means a focused mind, a mind that is not chala, distracted and broken, it is when an inside force tries to shake you and you're not shaken. An inside force like a regret of the past. An inside force like, I have all of this work to do tomorrow or this week, and I'm not shaken. So now the question is, how do we cultivate this integration or this balance of mind? This was stated in Meaningful Mornings based on Subodha Vedanta's chapter and verse that I had shared. Puja Swami Tejomayananda has given, as a reference, 5 practices that will encourage integration or balance. Here's what they are. I'm starting off with an orientation that is more, let's call it, ritualistic, or from the Karma Kanda, and that is upasana and japa. Please try to keep track of the build-up in terms of this value. We're in the 18th value, which is Amala, in English, integration. Amala has to do with the mind. How do I know if I have an integrated mind? I am balanced. What is the gauge of balance? When an outside force doesn't force you. How can I develop this? Upasana means engaging in puja or worship where you forget about your own body. You forget about your rupa. And then japa. It is where you're engaged in meaningful repetition where you forget about your name, your nama. If you're very body conscious, you see how that's always making you overthink. If you're very public identity conscious, what do people think about me? Then naturally, that mind is going to be super susceptible to outside forces. Makes sense, everyone? So worship and repetition, these are ways to forget about our own bodies and names, to be less concerned about them. Then, what was also stated by Puja Swami Tejomayananda is tapa, yajna, dana. This is less oriented towards karma, but karma yoga. Tapa means to conserve. Yajna means to channelize. And dana means to create. Now analyze your day. Did you conserve energy? Did you conserve resources and time? And if you just hold that and don't do anything with that, it'll lead to suppression. So that has to be channelized then. Channelized through a path, through a purpose. If I've conserved all of this energy, then what should I do? Exercise, clean the house, whatever it may be. If I've conserved and channelized, then the dana part is to create. I'm already feeling so good about myself that I'm able to create that same feeling of goodness for others. This is all called bahikarana sadhana. These are all disciplines that make us more pure, more amala. Now, my final thought before I get into the completion is, how can we get into this habit with our families, with our children? Take up a project at home or outside of the home. Take up a project, and during this project, keep reminding each other that the purpose of this project is not the project, but the purpose of this project is this integration. The purpose of the project is the integration. The purpose of the project is there's going to be outside forces, but we're not going to be forced. If one can take up such a project and your child or children are exposed to this, what will happen is as they take up projects in life, they'll be less concerned about the project and the results and more about the purification or the process. I remember being in high school and we had to engage in a IRP. What does IRP stand for? Independent Research Project. And the idea is that you were in class all the time and you learned this and this and this. Now can you show us that you're able to know all of these things independently? This independent research project, for you to do all of this work independently, and the aspiration is, if you're able to do this, now you're ready for college, where there's way less of a controlled environment, way less hand-holding. So come up with a project in your home, outside of your home, where it's less about the material results and more about the immaterial growth. Before I get to our workbook, how many of you are feeling clear about what's being shared right now in terms of the quiver? Okay. Today's my 7th class. I started at 5:30, it's now 9:30. So I don't even know who I'm teaching, what I'm teaching. So really I'm just reviewing to make sure that, okay, this is parenting class. These are the seekers. This is what I should be talking about. So I'm doing this for me, not for you. Now I am going to our workbook. I am reading. First of all, the inspiration. As we think, so we develop. When we integrate our purpose and thoughts, we are light and focused rather than agitated. If I say my purpose is that, but my actions are taking me to this, see how there's no integration. And so naturally I feel agitated. I'm being pulled in 2 directions. But if I'm thinking I have to do that, and I say I have to do that, and I act in the form of I have to do that, I feel not agitated, but focused. So that integration of purpose and path is great. Now here's the application. As a family, facilitate a conversation about the relative versus the absolute. Consider ways to create greater integration between your secular and sacred lives. Now, that is an awesome application. Think about when you were introduced to relativity, probably through math or science, correct? The theory of relativity. But when did you really start thinking about everything that is a result or a phala is relative? It has come into my life, and so it's going to leave my life. I don't think we have thought about this till we were in our 40s, let's say. Correct? And now we have such a bad habit of depending on results or phala, so that disintegration doesn't allow me to feel balanced. So start to talk about relativity as early as possible with those you care about. When it comes to birthday presents, that birthday present looks new now, but it's not going to be new in a year. We were recently discussing at the local university how sometimes in university we get so involved in what someone said or an emotion, but at the end of the year or at the end of the university, it's so insignificant. Who cares what that person said? Who cares that I happen to feel like this on this particular day? Relativity.
If you enjoyed what you heard or want to learn more, share this episode with a friend or find us online at facebook.com/cmniagara. For those on the journey of self-development, Chinmaya Mission Niagara provides a community forum for seekers to listen, reflect, and contemplate. This podcast is produced by the Young Adults of Chinmaya Mission, an international nonprofit working to transform individuals through the knowledge of Vedanta. Until next time, inspire, love, be.